After finding love notes in his jacket, I didn't confront him, I left one of my own. That night, he came home to a rose petal trail leading to the bedroom. He smirked, thinking it was for him, until he heard a deep laugh inside. I stepped out in a silk robe and smiled. Now you know how it feels. His jaw dropped. Then a familiar voice spoke. Didn't expect me, did you? He turned and saw. I never thought I'd be writing something like this. I've read stories on here before, shaking my head, thinking, damn, people are wild. But here I am, sitting in my half-empty house, telling you about the night I burned my marriage to the ground. So, here's how it started. I was doing laundry. Just a regular Thursday night, folding shirts, matching socks, checking pockets. No suspicions, no gut feelings, just going through the motions. And then, I found a note. Pink paper. Loopy handwriting. A little heart over the I in miss. I miss you already. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. Love, C. I stared at it for a long time. My brain tried to convince me I was misunderstanding, but my stomach knew. It knew. That note didn't belong to me. I didn't cry. Didn't call him. Didn't do anything, really, except sit there, staring at this tiny, stupid piece of paper that had just detonated my whole life. Then, something switched in my brain. A cold, sharp kind of clarity. I grabbed a pen. Surprise, babe. Tonight's going to be unforgettable. Follow the petals. Love, me. I folded it, put it back in his pocket, and went to bed. The next morning, I kissed him goodbye like nothing was wrong. He smiled at me, completely clueless. Told me he'd be working late. I told him I'd be busy too. Then, as soon as he was gone, I started planning. First, I called Ryan. Ryan and I had history. We were something once, years before Ethan. He was my first love, my almost, my what if. But life did what life does. We grew up, moved on, stayed friends. The kind of friendship that made Ethan uncomfortable, if I'm being honest. I didn't even have to explain much. The second I told Ryan what I found, he said, "What do you need?" I told him to be at my house by 7. That night, I prepped the scene. Dim lights. Soft music. A trail of rose petals leading from the front door to the bedroom. Candles flickering, wine chilling, silk sheets. Everything perfectly designed to make him think this was for him. And then, I waited. I heard Ethan's key in the door at exactly 9:17 p.m. He stepped inside, and I could picture the look on his face when he saw the setup. Probably grinning, thinking I had planned some big romantic surprise. I heard him walk through the house, following the trail. Slow steps. He was savoring it. Probably fixing his shirt, checking his reflection in the hallway mirror. And then, he reached the bedroom door. I was standing there, in a silk robe, leaning against the bedpost. I watched his face as his eyes moved over the room. The candles. The wine. Me. He smirked. Wow, babe. Didn't expect this. What's the occasion? I didn't say anything. Just smiled. Then, a deep laugh. From inside the closet. Ethan's whole body stiffened. His eyes snapped to mine, but I didn't move. I didn't blink. The closet door swung open, and out stepped Ryan. Ethan's face dropped. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Ryan leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a slow smirk stretching across his face. Didn't expect me, did you? Ethan's eyes darted between us, his brain trying to catch up. Trying to understand what was happening. Then, it clicked. The setup. The wine. The note. His hands shot to his jacket, yanking it off the chair, digging into the pocket. He pulled out the pink paper, unfolded it with shaking fingers, and read my words. His breathing went shallow. His head snapped up, eyes wild. You, what the F*** K is this? I took a step closer. Tilted my head. Smiled. Now you know how it feels. He flinched like I had slapped him. Then, everything erupted at once. I'll tell you what happened next soon. Ethan looked at me like I had just ripped the floor out from under him. His hands clenched around the note, crushing it into a ball. His mouth opened and closed, searching for words, but all that came out was a choked sound, somewhere between shock and rage. What the F*** K is this? His voice cracked. Ryan didn't move. Didn't flinch. Just stood there, leaning against the doorframe like he had all the time in the world. Think real hard, man, Ryan said, his voice low, calm. It'll come to you. Ethan turned back to me, face twisted with something ugly. You think this is funny? I shrugged. No. But it sure is interesting. His eyes darted between us. His mind was scrambling, trying to put the pieces together, trying to turn this on me somehow. I could see the exact moment he decided to go on the offensive. You, he pointed a shaking finger at Ryan. What the hell are you doing here? Ryan let out a slow, amused exhale. Oh, buddy. Wrong question. Ethan spun back to me, face red now. You're seriously trying to make me believe you're not ***king him? I just smiled. A slow, knowing smile. I don't have to make you believe anything. That set him off. Are you insane? He threw his arms up. You think you can pull this kind of bull's ***T, and I'm just gonna, what? Stand here and take it? Ryan pushed off the doorframe, stepping forward. He was taller than Ethan, broader too, and the way he moved was deliberate. Slow. Controlled. Yeah, he said, tilting his head. You are. Ethan took a step back, swallowing hard. And that's when I saw it. Fear. Not just anger. Not just frustration. Fear. He wasn't scared of Ryan. Not really. He was scared because he didn't know what was happening anymore. Because for the first time, he wasn't in control. And that? That was breaking him. He turned to me again, voice lower now, shaking. All right, fine. You made your point. Can we talk about this? Alone? Ryan scoffed. Now he wants privacy. That's rich. I held up a finger. Actually, that reminds me. I walked over to the nightstand, grabbed my phone, and tapped the screen. Ethan's phone lit up in his pocket. He hesitated. Then, slowly, he pulled it out. His eyes flicked to the screen. His face drained of color. He knew. He knew what I had done. He knew before he even unlocked it. But he did anyway. And there it was. The screenshots. Every text. Every call log. Every photo. Every little secret he thought he had buried under password-protected chats. It was all there. Sent to his entire family. His parents. His sister. His work friends. The group chat with his best friends from college. All of it. For a long, long time, he just stared at the screen. His breathing turned ragged. His fingers twitched like he wanted to smash the phone in half. Then, he whispered, "You ruined me." I tilted my head. No, Ethan. You ruined yourself. Then, the front door opened. I wasn't expecting anyone else. Ryan wasn't either. And when we all turned toward the hallway, my stomach dropped. Because standing there, staring at all of us, face pale, eyes wide with shock, was her. C. The woman from the notes. The woman from the texts. The woman my husband was cheating with. And she wasn't alone. Behind her? Her fiancé. Ethan's entire body locked up. His grip on his phone went tight, like he could crush it in his hand. His face? Pure panic. I didn't move. Neither did Ryan. We just stood there, watching the scene unfold. C stood frozen in the doorway, her face pale. Her eyes darted between Ethan, me, Ryan, then back to Ethan. She looked like she was about to be sick. But her fiancé? Oh, he looked ready to kill. I had no idea she was engaged. Ethan definitely didn't either. Ethan, C's voice was barely above a whisper. What the hell is this? Ethan opened his mouth. Closed it. He looked at me like this was my fault, like I had somehow orchestrated this. And the funny thing? I hadn't even thought about C. I was too focused on Ethan, on making him feel the kind of gut-wrenching betrayal I had felt. I didn't know she was engaged, didn't know her fiancé, didn't even know they existed as a couple. But the fact that they were here, right now, witnessing this? That was the universe doing me a favor. The fiancé stepped forward, his whole body tense, his jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might crack. Is this? He turned to C, shaking his head like he couldn't believe what he was saying. This is the guy. This is the ***king guy. C flinched. Ethan finally found his voice. Listen, man, he didn't get to finish. Because her fiancé punched him in the face. And not just a regular punch. A full force, years of repressed anger kind of punch. Ethan stumbled back, knocking into the dresser, sending a lamp crashing to the floor. He clutched his jaw, blinking in shock, completely speechless for the first time in his miserable life. C gasped, stepping toward her fiancé. Wait. I can explain. He whirled on her, eyes blazing. You've been sleeping with him. He gestured toward Ethan, who was still hunched over, one hand braced against the dresser like the room was spinning. C's hands shook. I didn't mean. The fiancé let out a sharp, humorless laugh. I bought a ring, C. I was planning our wedding. And the whole time, you were. He stopped himself, shaking his head. His face went blank, empty. Then, his eyes landed on me. How long have you known? I crossed my arms. Since yesterday. His jaw tightened. He nodded. Then, without another word, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small black box, and tossed it at C's feet. She stared at it, lips trembling. No, please, we're done. His voice was cold. Dead. And then, he turned on his heel and walked out. C let out a choked sob, bending down to pick up the ring box like she could somehow undo all of this. Like if she just held it, time would rewind. But time doesn't work like that. Ethan, still recovering from the punch, groaned and stood up. His eyes were wild now, full of something desperate. Okay, he breathed, this is insane. Can we all just, no, I cut him off. He turned to me, really looked at me, and for the first time that night, I saw something new in his eyes. Real fear. Not fear of Ryan. Not fear of C's fiancé. Fear of me. Because deep down, I think he realized, I wasn't done yet. Ethan took a shaky breath, rubbing his jaw where C's fiancé had punched him. His eyes flickered between me, Ryan, and C, who was still kneeling on the floor, clutching that damn engagement ring like it could change anything. His hands curled into fists. His mind was racing, trying to find a way out, some kind of damage control. I didn't give him the chance. Go ahead, I said, voice calm. Explain. Lie. Blame me. Say whatever you think is going to fix this. Ethan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Because there was no fixing this. Ryan shifted beside me, arms still crossed, his presence like a ticking bomb in the room. What I don't get, Ryan finally spoke, is why you did it, man. You had a wife who actually gave a ***T about you. He let out a slow, bitter laugh. You had everything. And you torched it for, what? Some side piece who was engaged. Ethan snapped. F****KU. He lunged forward, shoving Ryan's chest, but Ryan barely moved. I saw it before Ethan did, he had just made the biggest mistake of the night. Ryan's jaw clenched, his knuckles flexed, and then, he punched Ethan in the stomach. Hard. Ethan doubled over, gasping for air. Stop. C screamed, scrambling to her feet, eyes wide with panic. She rushed to Ethan's side, but he swatted her away, humiliated, furious, shaking. Ryan took a step back, shaking his head. You deserve way worse. Ethan staggered upright, his face twisted with rage and shame. You set me up, he growled, glaring at me. You planned this whole ***king thing, you planned this, I snapped, cutting him off. My voice was sharp, lethal, louder than I'd meant it to be. You brought this into our marriage the second you decided to cheat. You lied. You snuck around. You made me feel crazy. And for what? He had no answer. Because he knew I was right. C wiped at her face, her makeup smudged, her shoulders trembling. She looked broken. Her gaze met mine. I didn't know he was married, she whispered. Her voice was small. For the first time that night, I believed her. I should have been furious at her. But looking at her now, I realized, she had just lost everything too. She was just as played as I was. I let out a breath, my chest aching with the weight of it all. I don't care, I said finally, my voice flat. Because really, what else was there to say? Ethan grabbed his phone and stormed toward the door, but I wasn't done. Wait, I said. He froze. I walked over to the dresser, grabbed the folder, and held it out to him. What is this? He snapped, refusing to take it. Divorce papers, I said simply. His face crumpled. No, he whispered, like that one word could erase everything. Like it could bring us back to the life we had before this night, before this moment, before I found that note in his jacket. I waited. He didn't move. So I took a step closer, pressing the folder against his chest. Firm. Unshakable. Sign them, Ethan. His breath hitched. His hands trembled. I saw the fight in his eyes, the desperate, pathetic hope that I was bluffing. But I wasn't. I was done. C was crying now, shaking her head, mumbling, I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't mean for this to happen. Ryan? He was standing there like a solid wall, arms crossed, watching. He hadn't said a word since punching Ethan, but I could feel his presence beside me. Steady. Certain. Unwavering. Unlike Ethan, who was falling apart. He looked at me, pleading. We can fix this. I laughed. A cold, empty laugh. We? I repeated, shaking my head. There is no we anymore, Ethan. His eyes filled with tears. And for a split second, I saw it. Regret. Real, raw regret. But regret isn't love. Regret isn't loyalty. Regret is just realizing too late that you ruined something good. I didn't watch him leave. Didn't say another word. I just let him go. And when the door slammed shut, when his footsteps faded down the street, when the weight of the night settled over the house, I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for years. Ryan turned to me. You okay? I didn't answer right away. I wasn't okay. Not yet. But for the first time in a long, long time, I knew I would be.